Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the weekly emotional awareness discussion. Oh my goodness, I nearly forgot what it was called for a minute. I'm having one of those days. My head is scrambled today, so bear with me. This is going to be a very interesting evening. As I try gracefully with a fuddled head to interview Jeff Laming this evening. Um, so, first of all, I just want to give a quick update to people. I'm really sorry we missed last week. And I had a bit of a sudden request to go to A&E, so I had to cancel and take a trip to the local hospital. Thankfully, everything was okay. All results came back clear, and I did not have a blood clot on the brain as the doctor suspected. So all good news, but we're back this week. And the other thing I just want to update everybody on before I begin the live talk is I've now started a 12-week challenge on YouTube. So it's on a separate playlist on here. And I'm going to do it different playlists for each day, or there's one overall playlist. And it's a 12-week personal development challenge. It's totally free. It's going to be about 5-10 minutes a day. And they're just little things to push your comfort zone and help you to grow confidence, self-esteem, self-respect, self-love. So just check that out on the other playlist or find the link below afterwards. So let's crack on with this evening. And I said fuddled head today. I contacted Jeff and said, "You're still okay to do the live talk?" And he said, "Yes." I don't remember it. Anyway, so we sort of got there. And then I realised Jeff had stepped in for somebody on the 18th of May and I'd forgot to cross him off the list further down and reschedule somebody else. So he's graciously agreed to come back and talk to us again. But we promise, as usual, we will make it a little different because we don't like to keep going over the same old ground. So instead of just talking about, because Jeff, we can put the link into Jeff's earlier talk where he talked about omega-3, omega-6 and how that helped him on his journey. But tonight we're going to take that into some different areas for you, talking more about gut microbiome. And let's just begin. Just follow along. You'll find out what we're going to talk about. So good evening, Jeff, and thank you so much for joining me again this evening.
Yeah, good evening, Kate, and you're welcome. It's a pleasure to come back. And as you say, once we sorted out where we both got to,
Yeah.
and now it's great to be back, and I appreciate you and for asking me to
You're welcome.
do another session with you. Looking
No, I
forward to it.
you coming back again, especially as I'd cancelled last week. And say just so funny how I got in a muddle with my schedule because it's like all listed on here. Just so everybody knows, I've just got my 52-week list on here. So I'd put you up here where you'd filled in for somebody last minute, like at about an hour's notice, and I'd forgot
Yeah,
to move your name further down. So
no problem.
yes, I've got quite a gap here. So if anybody's got any more speeches they'd like to do on here, get in touch as well. We're always looking for new speakers to go on the lineup. We've got a few more to go yet. So,
Good.
but yes. So we obviously can we just ask you to do a brief recap on last time in that you told us a little bit about your backstory, your health, and
Yeah,
omega-3. If you can just do a few minutes, just recap us on that.
yeah. I'll just do a quick recap. My background is in accounting and business, and uh, I sort of changed direction, got to a point in life where I wanted to do something different, didn't want to stay in the accountancy world. And so I thought, well, if I don't do anything different now, I never will. I was at that age. So I did something different. And I was, long story short, I discovered YouTube and found it absolutely fascinating, able to combine it with my own know-how, knowledge, and experience. And started my own video marketing business. That was about 5 years ago. And working on a couple of projects, and one in particular was for a cranial osteopath. And he'd already had a channel set up and he was uploading videos, but he didn't quite know what he was doing. He was just knocking out these 2, 3, 4 minute videos on a fairly regular basis. And I was looking for a case study to, obviously I had a new business and I wanted to have something behind me that I could show to potential clients. So we agreed that I'd do his manage his YouTube channel, and he'd give me testimonials, and that's worked out quite well. So that was my first foray, if you like, into the health and wellness arena. Never interested me before, to be quite honest. And shortly after that, probably about a year after that, I was working on another video project for a good friend of mine, very good friend of mine, just converting podcasts into videos. And he got approached by a company in Scandinavia to roll out their business in the UK and Ireland. They'd already been well established out in Scandinavia and the Baltic states in Central Europe. But they recognised that UK and Ireland was a massive market that they wanted to get into. So he met the owners and liked what he saw. Came back and asked me to give him a hand. And being a very good friend, as you do, you agreed to help, and because you don't realise what you're getting yourself in for at the time. And from what I could see, it looked a very viable proposition. And probably within a month of helping, starting that, I went down with my own one of life's challenges, with my health. So that set me back a few months, to recover and what have you. But in that time, I was reading up on things, and I thought, I know, why don't I start my own YouTube channel around omega-3 fatty acids? Because what I was finding out about omega-3s and omega-6s and cellular health was starting to open my eyes somewhat, and I could see the parallels between health and the body with, I'm going to sound really boring now, accounting systems. And it soon became apparent that the body is a number of systems, subsystems, sub-subsystems, if you like. And the way they work or should be working, and reasons why they go wrong, people have illnesses and what have you, ailments. And it's no different to the accounting systems and the business systems, more importantly, of any business. And so my interest started to grow in the health and wellness field. And of course, as I say, I was getting all this knowledge on omega-3 fatty acids and the various problems that people have. And from that led me back to the root cause of problems. Again, looking at the systems, where is the root cause, where's the bottlenecks, and everything went back to our diet. And that's how it started, basically.
Wow. Yeah, it's quite a journey, though, to go, like you say, from accounting through to sort of health and videography and YouTube channel. It's just interesting, but it's amazing how you've at the same time managed to draw on all that experience together and not just like completely shift away, but you've still kept that experience there and utilised that.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. So so all that time that I was studying for my exams, it's obviously coming to fruition, albeit in a totally different way than I anticipated.
Yeah, I can't say the same around maths, but
well,
but yeah, I know what you mean. It's funny, our life experiences kind of lead us on this journey that we don't expect, and we end up here and think we never would have left school dreaming this is where I would be. It's just,
no, that's right.
And some of the things we've done in between are just not things would have even been talked about at school. And what do you want for a career? Well, yeah, just one of those things that just doesn't exist right now, but 20 years down the line,
yeah,
something new that's going to come up,
So,
we all this big focus actually about on what we do for a career when you leave school, but the world's changing so quickly. It just outdates really quickly.
That's right, and I think part of the challenge is you have to keep up to date with the way things are changing. Most of the time, you can't control what's changing.
No.
So you either go with it and embrace it, or you ignore it and fall by the wayside. And unfortunately, that's that is the stark choice that a lot of people have, especially when it comes to work.
Yeah, so I can't always control what happens, but we can control how we react to it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
And that is a choice. It is a choice.
Yes.
That's quite a powerful lesson. But I think a lot of people find it difficult to learn, and it takes a while to embrace that. To be, the world's just throwing all these challenges at us, and you can very easily come into victim mode.
Yes. Yeah. Very much so. And you have to say to yourself. I mean, I know I did. I'm either going to, as much as I didn't like it at the time, I have to go with it, learn to adapt, and look at the opportunities that could arise, because you don't necessarily see them at the time, and you have to have faith in your own ability to grab those opportunities.
Yeah.
Or you can forever wish and keep lamenting, oh, it's not like the good old days. And those days are gone. You're never going to go back to them, and you just have to move on. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't, and they moan, get bitter, and the negative thinking sets in.
Very easy to do that. I tell you what,
Yes.
because I always see it. I don't often share it on here, but I was looking at it earlier today. I'm going to talk about the emotional cycle, which has just literally disappeared. Here we go. We talk about emotional cycle. Oh, I've got it up on screen. What am I doing?
I've got it up on the screen. Yeah,
I've got it on screen. So I told you, bear with me. My head's completely fuddled today. One of those days, as Jeff knows, after my call this morning, like, what am I doing?
Yeah, don't worry. We all have them. We all have them.
Yeah, this is actually surprisingly not planned. This is not put on, but it's very relevant probably to the conversation tonight.
Yeah.
So yeah, we talk about thinking positively, and that's all the higher emotions and aiming towards feeling happier. And it's hard work to aim for that happiness, and it's like this constant struggle or constant climb to find happiness. But at the same time, when you think about depression being heavy, and you think gravity is always the one that wins. If you let go of something, gravity wins. You want it to keep going up, you've got to keep working at it. And I think when you talk about emotions in the same way, gravity is always the most powerful force. And when you stop making that effort, you stop, as you said a moment ago, having faith in your own abilities, and you stop thinking positively, gravity will win, and that depression kicks in. So
Yes.
yeah, that's I guess this is why I've done this in terms of this particular diagram, because it just does fit the way we talk about it. And
yeah.
Such a visual way of saying, we're not just having this conversation in terms of talking for the sake of it, but these conversations genuinely mean something to the emotional cycle.
Yeah.
So sorry,
No, I think that's a very valid point you make. Because when someone's in that sort of mood, they feel down, don't they? They don't feel up; they feel down.
Yeah.
And on your diagram, the black is at the bottom. It's down. And people say, oh, you've got to lift yourself up. Implying that you're down. So it's the language we use as well. It's the way we think, and again, thinking, emotions. It's all to do with mindset. And if you can catch yourself and be consciously aware of what you think and how you think and what you're saying, then you've got the chance then to stop yourself and say, no, actually, I'm having a bit of a rough day, but I've got quite a bit to be grateful for. So I'm going to think of all the good things. So something like that, and lift yourself up and move yourself into the yellow, where the sunshine is.
That's the one. Yep.
Yeah.
And if you want a more peaceful day, not just jumping around for joy, but peaceful, move slightly towards the blue with a bit more calm and thoughtfulness in there. I'm going to sit with the sand and the sun and the sea, and that's all the blue and the yellow together in the perfect picture.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
But we digressed a bit away there. But so you're having faith in yourself, like you said, with all the different things, and then where were we anyway? Told you I'm fuddled today.
Yeah. Now we're talking about the emotional side of things, and I think if you sort of why do people have these emotions? How can we have good emotions rather than not so good emotions? And a lot of it comes back, as I said earlier, to our diet, what we eat.
Yes.
And how we keep ourselves active. So what we eat is key, and also being active. And I mean yes, exercising and everything, but I mean in terms of at least, walk at least once a day. Don't get the lift. Go up the stairs. Keep yourself active. You know, mm, if you're up in the cities, instead of walking to the normal bus stop, go to the next one. Which is a bit further away. Up in London. Don't get the tube that's you normally go to. Go walk along to the next one. It's just those things really that
This is
keep
Norfolk
yourself
Western
active.
Tube Station.
Yeah. Obviously, but if you're in the city of London, it's not so bad. But
No.
out, out in the suburbs. But the point I'm making is that by being active, you're using your muscles, and your muscles are releasing certain things which obviously are good for your mind, for your brain. Whether you want to call them serotonin or endorphins or anything like that. I'm going to keep technical words to a minimum.
Do you know what? It's
tonight.
fine, because actually they're all related again to the colours. Because we talked
Yes,
about
they are.
serotonins, endorphins, and there was the other one. What's the other one? I can't remember. But they're all about aiming for the happiness. So again, actually doing these things, and like you were saying about looking after your health on a cellular level, we are made up 100% of cells.
Yes,
and
exactly.
looking after those, it's all of these thoughts, feelings, and emotions are through connections in those cells throughout the body. So it is important that every second of the day, and this is something I like to say, we can go for weeks without food, we can live for days without water, and we can even go for minutes without air, but we are constantly having emotions. Every action, reaction, and interaction, or no action, that we take every single day is based on an emotion.
Yes.
And yet we are not taught emotional awareness in schools, and it's the most used topic we'll ever need in our life.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And
so every bit that we do creates a chemistry constantly. Every reaction, action, interaction we do is based on a chemical response within our body, within those cells. And those are related to those four colours. With your adrenaline is your red and angry, cortisol is your blue and your stress, and then you get completely overwhelmed and you get sort of a bit too much of everything but not enough of the yellow. If you haven't got enough of that yellow, like the helium balloon up there keeping you afloat, you're going into that depression, and that's when it all becomes too much.
Absolutely, and that's why it's so critical to be active, and eat the right food. Being active, as I say, it releases a certain chemicals in your brain, and the muscles are working, the blood's flowing, and ideally you want to be outside, getting the fresh air and what have you, and that is taking your mind off any sort of negative thoughts that you might have, any disappointments that you might be going through, and I used to do a lot of running before I put my back out, and I used to use the running as an ideal opportunity to think problems through. If I had a particular problem that I was trying to overcome, running would be great for that, because I'll be able to clear my mind and think a lot clearly than if I was at home in my office, pondering about things and worrying about things and what have you, and phones ringing and what have you. Just couldn't think clearly. So it's important to be active in that sense. And our cells, as you say, we've got trillions of cells, and they're all connected by like an electrode current. And so if you got something that's not quite right with your stomach, it does impact on how you feel, how you think. And again, so this is why you need to eat the right stuff to have a settled stomach, so that you're in a good mood. It impacts on every part of your body, but the gut is the second brain of the body. It's known as the second brain, and it does impact on how people feel. And you hear people with various gut issues, leaky gut, IBS problems, and everything, and that is so uncomfortable and so distressing for people. It's embarrassing, and that in itself doesn't put them in a good mood. And everything leads from that. So it's important to get your health sorted out on a cellular level, and this is where the omega-3 fatty acids come in. And to get to that position, you need to get your diet right. So if you're eating processed and ultra processed food most of the time, which unfortunately most people in the UK and Northern Europe do, and North America and Australia, and you're having problems with your stomach, then you're forever always going to be struggling to work at your optimum. Think at your optimum. So cutting out those diets, and I'm talking about fast food, convenience food, the packaged food, the microwaves, even restaurant food. It's not fresh food.
Yeah, a lot of convenience served ones, rather than the ones with on board chef. Yeah.
Exactly, and it hasn't got the nutrients and vitamins that our bodies need, and it's full of what we call omega-6s, omega-6 fatty acids, which are inflammatory, the pro-inflammatory fatty acids. But because we're not eating on the other side of the coin, the vitamins, the fruit, the vegetables, the fish, then we haven't got the anti-inflammatory omega-3s to balance it up, and so our body's got an imbalance of omega-6s. As I say, they're pro-inflammatory, and over years and decades of our cells being filled with inflammatory fatty acids, what that does, it means that the cell membranes harden around the cells. So when people do realise and change their diet to the good stuff, fruit and vegetables, whatever, the greens and everything, because the cell membranes are impermeable to varying degrees, then the goodness can't get in anyway, or it gets in at a much slower rate than it should do. And when it does get through to the cells and the enzymes do their work, and then want to release the toxins and waste from that, then that waste and toxins have to get through that same cell membrane. So if they can't get out, they're going to just build up there. It's a bit like a pond. If you've got a pond with fresh water stream running into the pond, got fish in the pond, a lot of vegetation and everything, and then the water runs out at the other end of the pond. Well, once you block that stream going into the pond, the water running out eventually stops because the water drops, and the water in the pond stagnates. So eventually the fish die, the vegetation dies off, and you then get a terrible smell, whatever. So just imagine that happening to every single cell in your body.
Not a pleasant thought.
Not a pleasant thought, is it? And what happens then is why we people suffer with various diseases and illnesses and ailments. Whether it's IBS, dementia, which is obviously the mind, anxiety, arthritis, type 2 diabetes, eczema, asthma. The list goes on. Cardiovascular disease, and also to the point that the ligaments in your joints and bones and muscles, they start being affected as well. And sportsmen, sportswomen, they'll get niggling injuries. Their muscle recovery takes longer. That in itself can impact on further injuries. So that's the problem with not having a good diet. But to get your cellular health back on an even keel, you need to be able to find a supplement, if you like, that actually gets your cellular health back in balance, gets the cell membranes permeable, so that the good food that you are eating from fruit, vegetables, fish, what have you, does start getting through. That way, you're helping your body to then repair itself naturally, which means that your gut will start repairing naturally. You want to get the positive stuff into your gut to knock out the negative bacteria. So the gut can start healing itself. Your mind, your thinking, everything, your mood starts improving. And you got your body back in an even keel as to how it should be. But unfortunately, we're full of toxic.
Yeah.
To put it bluntly.
So it's become, there's so much more knowledge become available in recent years with the internet and that. And like you said, we are full of both good and bad bacteria. So it's one thing to keep putting the good ones in, but it is like how to get the bad ones out. But going and taking antibiotics actually kills off the good ones as well. So for people who have perhaps been ill and had antibiotics, that's throwing that out. And so that's all having an effect.
Yeah.
It's also get me thinking, actually, if what we eat has an effect on how we think, does how we think have an effect on our digestive system in reverse if it's like two-way communication? So because they talk about like the classic story, I suppose, would be like the school child who doesn't want to go to school and goes, "Oh, I've got tummy ache." So is stress level affect our digestion as well?
Yes, it does. You're absolutely right. It is a two-way thing. That's if you like the external pressures coming to bear on the mind. Obviously, when we talk about the diet and the stomach, we're talking about the internal direction. But I mean, I remember taking exams and getting myself into a right old state over exams, and I'm sure everyone that remembers, taking their exam, whether it was O levels, A levels, university exams, accountancy exams. Yeah, you can easily build yourself into a bit of a state, and have terrible issues, and which is detrimental to you being in the right frame of mood, right frame of mind on the day of the exam.
Yeah,
So
because it builds up the cortisol with the blue, so the stress builds up the cortisol.
Exactly.
And again, the cortisol is not helpful.
That's right.
There's different elements to it as well, but in particular with the digestive system, it's quite interesting because I've seen lots of videos. It's not lots, but I've seen some videos this last year about, and I hate the thought that they do all these experiments on animals. But I've seen one, they say they change the gut bacteria within mice, and they react differently. Like they'll put some in front of a cat or something, or what should be a threat, and he's like, cat, and run away. And then the other one, they would have changed the gut biome in the rat or the mouse and put them in front of a cat, and they're just like, oh, hello. They just like sit there and look at it and like not afraid at all. So just they're saying they're seeing a difference in how they react.
Yes.
And I think there is a purpose for having all of these cortisols. Like when you see danger, you should have the cortisol to say, fear, I need to be afraid of that. And the adrenaline to go, right, I need to run. So we need those. But those are in a world where we had stresses that we did need to run from. But in today's world, we build up all that stress over things that we just sit through and sit with, like exams, like breakdown of relationships, or sitting at work, constantly going through the same stress over and over every day. And we build up all these stress chemicals in the body. So they must be harmful in return, as well as the food being harmful to the emotions, all these chemicals building up. So when you were saying earlier about going running, that's a great way to release some of that chemistry. That's why running works for some people. I don't run personally, but I'd probably never get off the floor again if I tried. But I do like to go out and walk, and I've not done enough of that this year with my problems, but I am building it up. I actually, this last week, I've got more steps in than I have in ages, which is good. So
good.
It does make a difference to how you feel.
It does. Even swimming's a great thing to do. But as you say, most people haven't had a chance to go out. It's past 12, 15 months or so anyway. So, but hopefully that will change now. But yeah, it's interesting you're saying about like the stress and anxiety. It's almost as if the body gets on a wheel that you can't get off from, And I think that's where if you get your microbiome in balance, and what have you, the you are capable of not absorbing the stress, probably not the right terminology, but coping better with outside pressure. Exam pressure is another one. If you got a healthy gut, then the body can cope. But yourself, when you start getting anxious, people start eating and they start eating chocolate and cakes,
Yep.
and it's almost you know a circle that you can't get off of, and that creates its problem. So you're compounding the problem. So you need to find something. We've got to stop this. What will stop it? You need to put something in the spokes of the wheel to stop it from turning. And so right, we've got to get back to basics, if you like, get back to the root cause. And again, you will find going right all the way back, it emanates from our diet. And interesting, you saying, Kate, about we've got access to all of this information in the world now. Obviously, with the internet, we get told of certain advancements in the medical profession, and what have you, and yet the society today is sicker than it's ever been.
Yeah.
What,
Yes,
what,
that's
what, why is that? There's something not working.
yeah.
Why is that? And the problem is, again, it comes to our diet, because you've got the big food manufacturers, um, who dominate the shop shelves. They dominate the advertising, and we've got a lifestyle now where everything, people want everything done today or yesterday. Um, you know, the kids don't get a proper nourishing meal each day. They just get given some fast food, and what have you. I'm not saying that every kid, but that's talk generally. I'm talking about.
And
Um,
obesity is higher in children, a higher rate in children now than it's ever been, I think, as well.
yeah, yeah,
And that's sad, really, because they should be eating healthy food when their brain's developing, their internal organs developing, and they're growing, and oh my goodness, they're trying to study and do exams, and if they're not eating right, then yeah. Oh,
yeah, and
Yvette's here. Hi, Yvette. So
yeah,
she's fine. Because so
yeah.
it's a bit quiet today because we were missing you. Hello.
Hello, Yvette.
Right.
And you're right. I mean, to see children today, um, obese children, I think it's scandalous. Um, every child should be active. Yeah, uh, yeah, be able to go out and play. But again, it's a lifestyle. What do children play with now? They play on the Xbox or whatever. Uh, the latest gadget is. They don't go out, play in the street, with their friends, rushing around, burning off all that energy. Um, and unfortunately, as I say, they're stuck indoors. They eat the wrong stuff. Um, Lack of exercise,
Yeah.
and they've got all these problems.
It's
And
it
it,
goes
it
beyond just physical exercise. It's that mental stimulation they get from getting out playing, being in the open air, seeing the horizon, having the connection with friends in person rather than digitally online. And there's so much more to it from around that aspect. And it's almost sort of destroying a lot of social skills in some way as well. And
yeah,
then we go and have a pandemic thrown on top, so they've really been isolated this last year. It's been even more difficult for them, and anxiety's gone through the roof,
yes,
and
yeah,
probably a lot more comfort eating. And so yeah, it's like all the things we're talking about, or even pre-pandemic, without having all of that compounded on top. It's just wow. The effects of this are going to be like a scientific study for centuries or decades, aren't they? It's just like there are going to be questionnaires and statistics coming out for good 10, 20, up to 50 years later, and saying how it's affected everybody. You can see it coming.
yeah,
um,
you're absolutely right. And going back to the children playing outside, when we were kids, we all pick up germs, but the body's built up the immune system. That was part of the immune system, picking up on these antibodies, if you like, and
Depending on
things.
where you played, though.
Sorry.
It depends on where you played.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
I lived,
yeah.
we were near a main bus depot, and I mean a
Oh, right.
major bus depot.
Yeah,
So I used to ride up and down a pavement on my bike because we didn't have a garden. There was no greenery and trees. It was just pavement, and there was this main bus depot. And this was the days before low sulfur fuels.
yeah,
So for
yeah,
me, going out and playing actually usually meant becoming more ill. But that's in those days was very rare to be asthmatic, because these days,
yes,
again, that's another common one.
yes,
But yeah,
that's
that
right.
was very often. If you only get a couple of buses to go past and chuck a load of smoke over me, and I was off school for another week, you know.
Yeah, you were struggling. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but
You
I
right.
get what you're saying. If they're out playing healthily in a garden in the grass and the dirt and
Yeah,
climbing trees and on the beach or down by the river, whatever, those are obviously play safely by the river. Please don't just send your kids to the river on their own to play. But it just, yeah, there is a natural connection between humans and Earth, which
yeah,
is so lost these days.
yeah,
And there's a lot
yeah.
more science coming out about the connections in the earth and grounding, and even how the plants and trees talk to each other. So it's not just humans that need that interaction.
No, that's
You
right.
know, we
Yeah,
need that connection to nature.
yeah, that's right. But in terms of the human body, I mean, as kids, we built up our immune system. We used to get colds and everything, but now the problem I see today is that children, um, they're not. Their immune system is weak, a lot weaker than it was in children 20, 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And that adds problems to parents and the health system. Um, and there's an over reliance on our NHS system. It's all very well saying that our NHS system does a great job, but every year, prior to the pandemic, every year, every winter, there was an NHS crisis. Yeah, because it was flu
Mm.
season.
Yeah.
Um, so you would have thought, well, if you've got a problem, you make sure that you get it sorted out so it doesn't happen again.
Mm.
But with the governments that we have, they prefer to pass the blame on to the next government.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but and this is where people have got to take control of their own health. You can't rely on the health system. You can't rely on your doctors. You can't rely on the doctor just giving you a prescription, because the drugs that they give you, um, they just treat the immediate symptoms, and they've all got side effects. You ask any doctor, he'll tell you they've all got side effects.
Mm.
Some side effects are more profound than others. So this is why it's important to get your cellular health in balance, get your immune system topped up. I'm not just talking about any viruses that we've gone through. I'm talking generally for life. You've got to keep yourself healthy and fit, take responsibility, and
Yeah. Yeah.
protect your family, and
Mm.
get on with life.
Yeah. And you're right. There are to an element. You're absolutely right. People do need to take responsibility for their own health. But the thing is, as individuals, we don't know all the right information, and there's so many ailments and illnesses and diagnoses out there, and like you said, different medicine supports, herbs, diet, so many different dietary channels you can go down, different exercise plans. Um, it's almost overwhelming. It's like the market is so oversaturated, a bit like ourselves, but it's all a bit oversaturated, and it can be so overwhelming sometimes to even know where to begin.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
obviously, we all say, yeah, start with a healthy diet. But I think what we're talking about today is not just the people who 20s, 30s say. I mean, obviously, we're including them in what we're saying, but this is not just about like the people in 20s, 30s. So I've put on a few pounds, I'll go on a diet and eat salads for a couple of weeks, and then they're back to normal. What we're talking about here, in a way, is almost people who, and I'll put my hands up. I'm quite happy to say here, um, people who have gone beyond that to the point they've almost become diet resistant
yeah,
is when you're really looking at those health issues having kicked in. And I know that myself because I've been working with somebody else who's been on the show earlier in the year, and I've been dieting since January. In fact, to be honest, I've been dieting for years, but um, I got to a point where a year and a half ago, my weight suddenly rocketed up by about a stone in a week, and it just went up. And I had been going through a really stressful time, massive amounts of cortisol, and my weight just went up. But I've never been able to get it back down a year and a half later. And even with changing my diets, putting supplements in, I'm still trying to get to that point of sorting out my health on a cellular level. So when I've got to a point, I'm eating chicken, bacon, avocado, and cucumber. I'm virtually living on that for like 2 weeks solid. No chocolate. I was really good for a couple of, but I've been gradually changing my diet over months. But I got down to a point, this was what I was eating for 2 weeks straight. And then I kind of like I felt burnt out from not eating enough almost.
Yeah.
So I've put a couple of extra little bits back in now. This last week a bit too much, but all the way, it doesn't matter whether I eat more, whether I eat less, whether I eat absolutely nothing but healthy food, my weight has not shifted a single pound. So through 6 months this year of trying to work on my own health, my weight has not even dropped by a pound.
No.
And it is frustrating. And I get the emotional cycle, like you said, we're getting stuck on this wheel, because then I get stressed and frustrated with it, and I go and comfort eat because I'm stressed. And then that's not healthy. So I've been trying, like, if I'm going to comfort eat, it's either whole earth peanut butter, like the really healthy peanut butter, just a spoonful of it, or a couple of chunks of dark chocolate. So I'd restricted myself right down to that, or some berries. So, because I can't eat many fruits because, like, again, you said IBS. So it's like, I understand that you get to this point, you really chunk your health down and down and down into the right minimum of what I can survive on without really feeling like I'm, literally going on a survival program. But there is something else there on a cellular level, obviously. So I'm still working on that. So I do, this is where you realise that at a younger age, you think what you're doing is, I can eat all that food, it's not bothering me and I'm fine. But it catches you up later on. It really
does. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And interesting point you say there, Kate, because in terms of the nutrition that our body needs on a daily basis, the vitamins and nutrients, we need to consume about 3,500, 4,000 calories a day. Today, society, because we're a lot more sedative and what have you, we live on 2,000 to 2,500 calories a day, and even that's too much for a lot of people in terms of them putting on weight. So the 3,500 to 4,000 a day to get everything that your body needs, you've got to burn that off. And to simplify things, if you're burning off 2,000 calories a day and you're consuming 4,000 calories a day, you're going to put on weight. But
so what you mean? It's like going back to the days when people would have been hunters or land farmers rather than big tractor farmers. They would have been out there physically working all day, every day.
It is. We talked about going back 50, 60 years ago when most work was manual, and people would either ride on the bike, walk to work, walk to wherever they were going. Cars weren't as many cars as there are today. So people did manual labour at work, in factories and what have you. So they could consume, and the food was fresh as well. It was fresh. It wasn't manufactured, wasn't man-made, or very little of it was. So they were getting the right food and they were burning it off.
Yeah, and it's interesting how many millions of years humans have been on the earth, but we're talking about the last 50 years since food has been revolutionised.
Yeah.
And that revolution has not been a good one. It's a tasty one.
It's a tasty one.
Not a healthy one.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it comes to mass marketing, mass manufacture, convenience. It's a lifestyle thing, and the food that manufacturers make, they take out, in its raw form, it tastes horrible. So they take out the stuff that makes it taste horrible, and it's invariably the nutrients and everything else, vitamins. So they replace it with colorings and flavorings and other stuff. which are basically sugars, and those sugars are addictive because you know yourself. Once you get hooked on a particular type of food that you like, might be pizza, might be Coca-Cola, you want more of it.
Yeah.
You know, you have a craving for chocolate's a classic. You have a craving for chocolate. It's full of sugars, and it becomes addictive. So again, you're on that merry-go-round that wheel that you can't get off, and that's what the problem is. So when people say, you know, I hear people say like yourself, you know, I've tried these diets and they don't work and everything. It's because you still got the, if you like, the sugars in your body that you can't suppress, if you like. You know, you can go so long, but then you've got to, you know, go on a binge or whatever. Or in your case, as you say, you cut back, but you're cutting back on stuff and starving your body of those nutrients that would normally be being provided by 3,500, 4,000 calories. So the only way to balance that up is with supplements. But the supplements in the supplement industry, you don't get what is put on the packs. And I come to fish oil, for example. You know, coming back to omega-3.
Just stop there for a minute. So I've got a comment from Yvette, and I just want to put this one up. She said, I've been asked to try a low format. I think she means FODMAP diet, and I'll bring that one up in a minute. A FODMAP diet, and introduce food slowly to improve my tummy. And you're talking about sugars and about us having sugars. If I just bring this one up, sorry, FODMAP, and I'm familiar with this, if that's the one Yvette means, it's something like fermentable oleo saccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polysaccharides. It's a whole list of sugars. So it's like they're all different types of sugars that are encompassed in foods that we have, but they're natural sugars. And I'm aware of this because as we get older, sometimes our bodies stop digesting some of those sugars. Like, for example, the familiar one is lactose intolerance. We stop digesting the lactose, which is a form of sugar. And we stop producing the lactase acid. So when you're saying about processing sugars, there's the refined type of sugar that we get in the white sugar and the packets, and there's all these different chemicals. Is there something like about 26 types of sugar or something that they label on packages under different names?
I've read some, and it was 52 different types of descriptions, which all amount to more or less the same thing, sugars.
So when you say sugar, it's like a simple word to mean taste sweet. But there's so many things that got so many types of sugars, and these are just the natural ones. And when I say I've been cutting my diet back, it's because I know some of those affect me. So it's been trying to get down to, and I found myself literally living on, because I had been vegetarian for a few years, and I had to go back onto meat to get something in me. So meat and just anything that was green, and even then some green things I was having quite a reaction to. It's the sugars itself is, we need them, but when people go on a fruit and vegetable diet, you can even cut out the fruit and still get enough sugar from the right vegetables. So if anybody's thinking, if I cut out all of my sugar, I won't have any at all, it's there in your food, but you just need to understand where the sugars come from within those vegetables and things as well.
I mean, when we talk about sugars, we're talking about the refined sugars. Again, the man-made food, the manufactured food. And you mentioned that, the white sugar. I call it the white stuff. If anyone came up to you in a bar, offered you some white stuff, you'd refuse it. And the same with food. So, sugar, salt, and flour. The white stuff. That's what you want to cut out where you can. It's the artificial sugars and flavorings and colorings and everything else that we're talking about. Natural sugars and fruit, vegetables. They're natural for a reason. And going back to where people really struggle with the diets and what have you. I mean, it's type 2 diabetes is becoming a really big issue now. And people often find that they may be in what they call pre-diabetes stage, where the nutrients can't get through, and the body starts changing to the point that you eventually get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and that has issues with regard to hormones, and then it leads on to things like anxiety, depression, and everything else. It's almost like a domino effect.
Yeah.
And when you consider type 2 is one of those illnesses that again was almost unheard of 100 years ago, and it's a bit like fibromyalgia, eczema, asthma. Those types of illnesses and diseases have only come to the fore in the last 50 years or so, 100 years.
Yeah.
Again, it all goes back to what are we eating now compared to then.
Yeah. And I must admit, I hadn't heard of fibromyalgia until I've got one of my sisters is diagnosed with it.
Yeah.
And we believe that she's actually had it from quite young, even as far back as primary school, which is very young, but she's struggled a lot for many, many years. But I've heard more and more people being diagnosed with it over the last sort of 5-10 years. And the word's become sort of almost as well known. It's sort of almost become more known now than asthma was when I was a child. Most people know what asthma is now, but the fibromyalgia has definitely become more prevalent.
Yeah.
And it's almost a name for something they can't diagnose. And it's for anybody who doesn't know what fibromyalgia is. As far as I know, it's something like when you were diagnosed with about 15, I think it's about 15 or 18 pressure points around the body, where you were in pain. So if you've got at least like 15 or 18 points of pain at any given time, they sort of diagnose it as fibromyalgia. But I don't know the specifics behind that diagnosis in picking out what is, you can't go in and say, well, I've cut this wrist and broken that one and my kneecap's fallen off and that's fibromyalgia. It's not that kind of pain. It's kind of almost like your rheumatism arthritis type of pain, where it's inflammatory and it's painful all the time and things don't settle it. So more and more of it.
Yeah, and you've said the word there, inflammatory. It's chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation has arisen out of our cells because, as I said, the omega-6s are pro-inflammatory. That creates the chronic inflammation. You mentioned that the pain points or the pressure points, and anything that ends in itis is inflammation. So arthritis, gingivitis, colitis, there's tons of itises. It's all inflammation, and to get that chronic inflammation back under control, you've got to go back to getting your cellular health under control. And you do want inflammation in your body, but you want it to be acute inflammation. And that type of inflammation is where you cut yourself, you injure yourself, get a virus. That's the type of inflammation you want to go and attack, the alien thing that's hurting your body. And then you've got the omega-3s, the antibodies that come and sweep up and make sure that everything tidies up afterwards. But that's the problem we've got. We've got too many omega-6s. So that when osteoarthritis, for example, when the omega-6s, the inflammatory acids go to a problem in your body, there should be a cut-off point for it. Right, they've done their job. Then we let the omega-3s take over, but they don't. They continue attacking that part of the body, and this is where you get the autoimmune problems, and they start attacking the good cells, and this is where you got the those sorts of problems. Type 1 diabetes is another autoimmune disease, and you've got other autoimmune diseases. That's why it's so critical to get your cellular health in place. And if you take that one step further in terms of anxiety and stress, and the emotional side of it, okay, that is what's behind depression, Alzheimer's disease, and all those other nasty things to do with the mind and the brain.
Mm.
So it's all related. And again, I can't stress enough: take responsibility for your health, for your diet, and get your cellular health back into balance.
Mm.
And that brings me on to the supplements to help you do that, because there's very, very few supplements around that would actually do that for you. Again, the supplement industry are in cahoots with the food manufacturers and big pharma.
Oh,
Uh,
right, yeah.
I'm not being political here, but it's just that when you look at it, as I said, big food manufacturers dictate what we eat because they put out all the food on the shelves that we see. They've got the big marketing budgets for the televisions and obviously online as well now. You've got big pharma who produce the drugs for the medical industry, and those drugs are there to treat symptoms, not the root cause. And the part of those drugs side effects create other problems in the body. So you're forever having to sort out problems on that side of things. So again, you're on the hamster wheel, if you like. And the supplements that, again, through marketing tactics, if you like, marketing tricks, people think, oh, I need to take some omega-3 supplements, or I need to take some vitamin D supplements. Um, Question is, how do you know if they work?
Yeah, that is a good point, because so many things that we eat and don't eat can affect how they because I've been aware of this for trying to be well over 20 years, getting on 30 years, that if you take some supplements but you don't have the right other ones with them, or do have other ones with them, they can either not be absorbed because they haven't got the counterpart, or another one you're taking with it can actually block the absorption. So you could be taking them and they're doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
So yeah, it is about getting it right. And as the lay person who's started bundling through life and certainly fuddled through the first half of this video tonight, um, so for anybody who's coming halfway through this or whatever, just yeah, don't watch the beginning. I was in the right muddle.
yeah, we won't talk about it. We've moved on from there.
Yeah, we've moved on. Yeah.
Yeah,
So but yeah, it's just so much going on with information that it's overwhelming, and that's emotional in itself. Even just trying to make those decisions, how to make that way forward. But everything you're saying makes so much sense about the inflammatory, anti-inflammatory, and the cells. And I'm trying to think back. It was even before I'd even come up with any of this concept about emotional awareness. I watched a speech in Norwich once. A gentleman named Mark Skip, the naked health coach he was, years and years ago. And he'd been around the world studying diets, and he'd come up with a specific diet. But he said that he'd studied the cells, the body cells, and he realised that every cell is technically, however short or long it was, it's technically a straw.
mm,
It's got a circular component and there's a hole in, because everything in the cell has to filter. So stuff's got to go in one end and out the other. So it's like straws. And he
yeah,
used that as an analogy. And he said, I realised there are only so many things you can do with a straw. You can squash it, you can cut it, and you can bung up the end of it. He
yeah,
said, but that's pretty much it.
yeah, yeah,
But the other thing is, you're saying about, when we actually cut ourselves physically, it will heal. And that is, the body naturally wants to heal. It does. And,
yes,
you can go and have major surgery and open hearts and stomach surgery and all sorts, and your body will heal. But if there is, inflammation there, you've got to ask yourself why. What's causing it? Why have you even got the information to begin with? Because your body wants to heal. So what's stopping it from healing? So I get
yes,
that. And, even though I struggle and I've been trying to resolve my health issues for years, so I understand how difficult it is when sometimes you just don't even know where to go for help, and you try different things, and you just don't seem to be getting anywhere. But there's no definitive answer for, well, what's causing the inflammation sometimes. So this sounds absolutely like a major breakthrough with the omega-3. I mean, it's sort of dietary information, but again, like you said, how do you know if you're getting the right quantities of it in your diet, the right amount of calories? And then if you say take omega-3, eat these fishes, this fish, these eggs, how do you know if you're eating enough or too much, or it's just, how do you even know where you are to begin with, and whether you've got to keep going a bit more or whether you've done it. So this is where it's absolutely great that what you're doing is providing people with that way of, through the omega-3 you're working with, is to, or the omega-3 zone, sorry, is to provide that way of testing and coming back with a result and saying that is where you're at with your omega-3 and omega-6. So actually giving them the evidence-based results so they know what they're working with. And I think that's a really powerful point to start with.
Because
I will say that, ask if it's okay to say this. I spoke with you the other week off camera, and you say that if somebody has this test done and turns out that their omega-3 levels and omega-6 are actually imbalanced, they're good, that there is a refund. Am I correct? That you, or something? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just want people to know that you're not going to throw money away on a test and be charged full price or something if you don't need it as such.
No, that's right. I mean, I'm working aligned myself with a company, Scandinavian company. They offer a simple dry blood spot test to measure your omega-6, omega-3 levels. And we've also got a supplement, an omega-3 based supplement that is called a balance oil. Now, what happens when companies produce fish oil or krill oil or cod liver oil? They take the fish and squeeze all the oil out, and then that oil has to go through a process, a refining process, to take out all of the toxins, the heavy metals and mercury and what have you, which is how it should be. So you're left with pure high grade fish oil, but that process also takes out the natural antioxidants called polyphenols. And what most companies do, they don't replace those natural polyphenols with an equivalent antioxidant. So what some companies do, they will then market that fish oil as high grade pure fish oil, the best you can buy in the world, for example. So people think, oh, it's got to be good, then I'll buy it. Or the other thing they do is they will put in an antioxidant. Well, they call it an antioxidant, something like vitamin E. Now, there's 8 types of vitamin E, and so you might see on the ingredients as something like tocopherols, or I forget what the other one is, but it's alpha, beta, gamma, delta. So that's 4, and then there's another 4, the other one.
That's all Greek, yeah.
All Greek, yeah. So again, it's a marketing ploy or trick of when you look at the ingredients on the pack, you don't understand most of it, if anything at all. Now that vitamin E, whilst vitamin E has its own benefits, in this case, it's nothing more than a preservative, for when the product goes out on the shelf or in the warehouse. What the company I work with do, they replace those natural polyphenols that have come out of that process with polyphenols from cold pressed, unripened olives. So it's olive oil, basically. So everyone knows that olive oil is loads of benefits. Probably best thing, it's called liquid gold in Italy, for example, in Sicily. So that gets put back into the mixture with the omega-3s. What that does when you take it, the polyphenols protect, they chaperone the omega-3 fatty acids as it makes its way through your body, goes through your stomach, through your blood, and out to the cells. That process takes about 24 to 48 hours. Okay. The other supplements that you get from the likes of Holland and Barrett and Boots and online stuff, they will take anything from 5-6 hours to 15 hours. So by the time you take them, and if it's pure fish oil, for example, or cod liver oil, it starts oxidizing straight away because they haven't got that protection. And when it oxidizes, it goes off. And that's why you sometimes get that fishy smell, or people complain about fish burp, for example. That's because it's oxidizing, it's going off.
Oh,
So
goodness. Yeah.
even if it lasts for 15 hours, it's still not got through, had time to get through to your cells and cell membranes. So by the time it does, it's impotent, it's ineffective. So people buy these supplements religiously. Some
Yeah.
people pay over hundreds of pounds a month. They're just wasting their money.
Yeah.
They just, but that's
It
again,
makes
that's the
perfect sense.
marketing that the supplement industry um, uh,
Yeah.
put out there. You think you're getting something that's
Mm.
good. You know, people say, "Oh yeah, fish oil, yeah, that's good for you. Omega threes are good." Omega three fatty acids on their own are useless.
Goodness, yeah.
It-
That's so interesting to hear you talk about this, and it just goes to show how much you know about your topic. So if anybody's watching this or has actually sat and watched this through on replay, do get in touch with Jeff. His links in the comments and descriptions to the Omega 3 Zone, especially on YouTube, and then I'm assuming they can contact you from there.
yeah,
But that is absolutely incredible. You know what you say. I think in a way they know that we need the omega 3, so there's like, oh, we need it. So science has said, oh yeah, we need that, so they put it out there. But over years, the science has improved. Like we were saying earlier about other things, science has improved, and it really sounds like this company have absolutely done their science at every possible level, taken that on board, and it just goes to highlight what you're saying there. So I know it's gone 8 o'clock. We're running well over, so I'm quite enjoying this.
right.
But it just goes to highlight that you're saying the whole information overload for the general person like me trying to make a decision, or for the viewers trying to make a decision, is phenomenal, and we wouldn't understand all of that. And that's why conversations like this are amazing. So anybody out there who's struggling with a befuddled head like mine was tonight, whether you're struggling with weight resistance, anxiety, depression, just inflammation all over, sounds so intriguing in that, do get in touch with Jeff. And I want to just say, obviously, thank you ever so much for joining me tonight and having the conversation, because it's been really, really interesting. And wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, Kay. I've just put in the chat there. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
www.drpaulclayton.eu. He's the guy that he's a well-renowned pharmacologist and pharmaconutritionist. He's the guy behind the products, especially this balance oil. That's his blog site. If anyone's interested in taking a look, finding out more about the work that Dr. Paul Clayton does, he's brought out some 3 or 4 books about cellular health, getting your cellular health back into balance. And he's the guy that's behind all of this. And you going back to what we said earlier, we've got all of this information available to us. It's as if we've got too much information. It's overwhelming. What information do you believe? What don't you believe? And that's why I'm saying we've got all this information, and yet society, individuals, more sicker than we've ever been.
Yeah, absolutely. And frustrated with it all as well.
Yeah.
Like we're saying, just overloaded with advertising and promotions and products, and even like you're saying with olive oil, you've got to have the right antioxidants with it for it to work effectively.
Yeah.
But they'll even advertise it as a food off a supermarket shelf to put on your salad, healthy oil. So it is healthier than having the other fats, but it's still not going to resolve all of these issues unless it's got the right components with it. So oh my goodness, this is a minefield, isn't it? But
yeah,
it's amazing that it's come out sort of in that last 5-10 minutes of the conversation. You've really touched on bits that highlight how much there is to learn about this, and rather than sort of carry on for too long, just it's all on the Omega 3 Zone, Jeff's YouTube channel. There is loads of videos on there. That's what he does. He creates videos for YouTube, and they're amazing, and certainly much better quality than the ones I do.
No. We can work on that, Kay. Don't worry.
Yeah, we will do at one point. Yeah,
we'll work on that one. Yeah. But no, thanks so much for that, Kay, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
And I hope we haven't sort of diverted away too much from the emotional awareness sides of it.
I think
aspects of
it's
it.
all very relevant. And just very quickly, because when I talk about my book a lot, Brain Unchained, and we talk about the emotional cycle, I talk more about this bit than I do about the rest of the strategy. And the diagram has got these orange bits, inner and outer, which represents change. And in here is a different diagram that I don't show so often.
Yeah.
And the emotional cycle, as we see it on the top of the screen here,
Yeah.
represents this part of what I call the mood mentor model. The second part is about understanding that orange inner and outer circle. So a third of this book is purely about understanding about the colour orange on that cycle.
Oh, wow.
And there's 5 types of change in the world we can face, and that is health, emotional, logical, physical, and social. Look at that, helps. So what changed helps. So
Yes.
that is why I think it's very relevant, because health is important to emotions. We all know that we get angry when we're hungry, or not everybody does, but the word hangry, and there's a
Yes.
purpose to it. If you get dehydrated, you get a headache and you get grouchy. And everything we do, when you overeat, you go into a food coma, and you're like, oh, and you feel completely satisfied, but like food coma. But everything that we do and we eat, it all has a bearing. And I know there's also the other side to it is when my son was younger, we discovered that a lot of his emotional issues were related to processed meats. And where a lot of children with things like ADD and ADHD, or specifically with ADHD, can drink something like orange juice, and 10 minutes later, they are literally throwing furniture around the room. And I have been in the presence of a child who's done that, and had people pinned at the wall by a chair within minutes of drinking. Well, we thought we didn't have orange. We thought we'd be safe to give him lemon juice. No.
Wow.
And I've seen children literally go into this complete rage within 10 minutes of drinking it. But my son was a little bit different in that when he ate processed meats, like processed ham and burgers, and
Yeah.
particularly in sort of 20, 30 years ago, there was a big craze over the chicken drummers, Bernard Matthews chicken drummers. And anything like that, he would then be suicidal 2 days later, or severely depressed. And we worked out it was these E400 numbers. And again, there's all these E numbers in our diet, which I'm being asthmatic, I've been aware of from quite young. But anything up to E330 is natural food colorings, which you see a lot more of now. And anything over, I think it's over 600 is, it's not necessarily natural, it's derived from natural products, but it's that bit in the middle from E330 to E600, the bit between that is all chemical products.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they got to a point where they got smart and stopped putting on the E numbers and started actually then putting on the names of the products itself. So you then didn't know what number they were because they'd actually put the word instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when they were putting the E numbers on clearly on the packets, anything in that mid-range, but in particular with him, it was the E400s, were all the bits that sat in processed meat, in chocolate, breads, pastries, margarine. And
Yeah.
it's amazing how many synthetic preservatives there were in so much food, which was so easy to put in the basket and feed a family with,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was affecting his mental health. But at the same time, processed foods, as we know, are affecting other parts of the body, not just their emotions. There's other things. You don't just eat it and then your body decides to be depressed or suicidal or turn aggressive. There's other chemical imbalances going on to create that cortisol and the adrenaline shift so rapidly or so slowly over 2 days. So
Yeah.
there's, oh my goodness, it's like the body is so complex. We will never fully understand it. Oh yeah, you've put that. That's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that.
No, it is. You're right, and this is where the systems comes into play. Because let me give you an example, and this will be the last example I'll share with you. Pregnant mums in the third trimester, the baby starts drawing down omega-3s from the mother's brain for the development of its own brain. Now, if the mother has insufficient omega-3s, then the baby's not going to get sufficient for its brain to be developed properly, if you like, fully. What we're seeing now is that when babies are born and growing up, they're more and more being born with eczema and asthma, or those illnesses are developing at a much younger age. And ADHD, you mentioned ADHD, that's become a big problem now. And they're linking that back to lack of omega-3 fatty acids. And again, it goes back to the mother. If the mother's not eating the right food, if they're breastfeeding the infant, the infant's not getting the goodness through the breast milk, and that's all impacting. So when people say give your child the best start in life that you possibly can, well, it's about material things or anything else. It's actually about their physical and mental development. And when the brain doesn't develop properly, all the I forget what you call them, but all the neurons and strands and everything, if they're not going in the right places that they should be, then just imagine the impact that's having on a child that's growing up. ADHD, as you say. If your son said it had,
the other one, isn't it?
Asperger's. If they're having a certain type of fruit drink, orange juice, lemon juice, or chocolate, processed meat, and they go off the rails, well, obviously there's some sort of chemical reaction going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's incredible that somebody can eat or drink something and then have that reaction so quickly. But I suppose it's in a similar way to you line a load of shots up on the bar and drink them quickly, and it takes you a few minutes to feel the reaction. So it's a similar thing in a way. Yeah, it creates chemical change.
Yeah.
Alcohol, as we know, changes the brain. So I suppose it's a really good example. For a child with ADHD, they drink orange juice and it affects the brain in a different way to alcohol, but it's still that same kind of, there is a chemical shift in the body and in the mind.
Yes, that's right.
But as we know, alcohol is inflammatory in its own way and dehydrating, and so can other things be. But there are, like you said, with the oils taking 48 hours to work effectively, or up to 48 hours. That was the same I was finding with those processed meats with my son, that they were taking 2 days to affect him, but he was having a negative impact from the meats if they'd been processed. So even when, he's 26 now, but even when he was at 8 years old, I took him off processed meat. So this was years ago.
Yeah.
That was before even the days where Jamie Oliver had done his big school campaign. I'd already worked that one out by watching my son's diet for 2 years before I suddenly went, now I see the connection between his moods and what he's eating. But I had to keep a food diary for 2 years to be able to finally see the pattern. It's like, if you are struggling to keep, it is a good idea. That's the one thing I've been too lazy to do this year, or too frustrated to do, is keep a food diary. It might help me.
Again, it's horses for courses. Some people like that. They like the discipline of a food diary. Others say, right, I know what I shouldn't eat. I'll cut that out completely and carry on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that. Chris, bless him. Yeah, he was. Yeah, because Yvette was a neighbour of mine years ago. She's not far away now, but she was a neighbour of mine at the time, and when they were growing up, and the kids were good friends. So it was another one when Chris came over to visit. It was, don't give him orange, and don't give him any blue Smarties.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he wasn't the one I was talking about earlier. That was another lad I knew. The funny thing is, when I moved into this flat last year, the lad who'd had somebody pinned up the wall in 10 minutes of having lemon juice, when I moved in the flat, 2 floors down, there was this lad walked out the door on the first day, and he sort of looked down at me and, hello, do you remember me? He's like, huge, great guy. And it was like, I was trying to think, you've grown up a bit.
Yeah.
He's about 6, 7 years old last time I'd seen him, but he remembered me. I was like shocked.
Yeah. But, hopefully he's not taking the same stuff as he was then. Okay.
Yes. No, he's a lot better now.
Good.
He's since moved out, so he's not far away, but he's since
moved
out.
Right.
So I moved in, and then they had to move out. But yeah. Well, we've amazingly got some viewers coming just as we're finishing up. So welcome to everybody. It's great to see you. Sorry if you've missed whatever, but it will be on replay. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook, on my profile, and in my group. And again, wherever you're finding it now, obviously you found it, but do share it. If there's anybody you think would be fascinated by this, or may need to hear this, or you think it would help benefit their health and their emotions, because everything's interconnected. Unlike the days when we were at school and everything was a separate topic, today everything's interconnected. So health and emotions, as we've said it even in my book, it's all part of the strategy of understanding emotions, is how health impacts that as well. So thank you so much, Jeff. This is the longest discussion I've ever had yet. We've just given up on the clock, haven't we? So throw that one out the window. We've given up the clock.
No, my apologies for that, Kay. My apologies.
No, don't apologise. If it's going well, why stop?
Yeah.
So it's all important.
Thanks ever so much for inviting me back.
You're very welcome.
Kay.
Even if it's unintentional to get you on twice. And anybody in that, you have to go and watch the beginning.
Yes.
Jeff came on 18th of May, and I'd forgotten to remove him off the list for tonight, but he gracefully came back anyway.
No, it's a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
We've turned it all around and we've made a good night out of it. So thank you so much indeed, Jeff.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Yeah, cheerio, everyone. Thanks for watching.